How do you feel about VTubers like the dog, also known as Korone, or virtual idols like Hatsune Miku, or even virtual models like these people? I don't have their names, but like these people. Well, how do you feel about video game characters coming to life to try to create an interpersonal relationship with their fan base on Twitter and other social media platforms? Because I can tell you how I feel about it. I think it's fucking disgusting. If you don't know what I'm talking about Riot Games, and they're just fucking new levels of disgustingly gross marketing for their game. Riot Games not too long ago ended up teasing a character named Seraphine through a series of social media posts on a Twitter account called Sarah.wave. Now, a lot of people, before finding out that this character belonged to League of Legends / Riot Games, thought this was just another cool, like, virtual musician, because people are okay with that. Hell, we've got Gorillas, and they're doing just fine. Almost none of those characters exist, and they are all just as popular as musicians like Drake or Rihanna or Lady Gaga, and we're totally fine with them existing. But that was not the case. People ended up discovering that Seraphine was indeed linked to League of Legends and was going to come out as a new character and be a part of League of Legends' big K-pop project, KDA. In my opinion, I fucking hate KDA, and I think K-pop is bad. Why do I think K-pop is bad? It's rehashed music from 4 years ago, but this time Korean. Nothing that K-pop does is original or new. It's something you already like and you already know, and the only difference is that now it's got attractive, stupidly high beauty standard models instead of, you know, the musicians that originally made those songs. It's all hyper perfected manufactured garbage, and it scares the shit out of me how dedicated these people are. They managed to turn Stan, which meant a crazy fan that'll do anything to get closer to their fixation, into something positive, and people swear on their gravestones that Stan originated as a K-pop thing. Now, if you don't know, Stan is a bad thing. You don't want to be called a Stan. Why? Because it originated in a song called Stan by rapper Eminem. The song's entire purpose was to shed light on the dark side of being a celebrity and how some fans take it a little too far. In the song and the music video that accompanies it, we follow the hyperfixation of a guy named Stan who does everything in his power to get closer and closer to Eminem, to the point where he disregards everything around him, and Eminem is the only thing that matters to him, in many cases trying to become him. And in the final moments of the music video, Stan ends up killing his wife and unborn child in a frantic attempt to teach them a lesson for getting in between him and Eminem. You don't want to be called a stan. It's not something positive, but K-pop managed to twist it into something positive, rewrite the origins of the word, and constantly, till this day, defend the new origin as the way it's supposed to exist. Yes, language changes over time, but the original definition still sits where it is and where it belongs, because K-pop fans are stans. They're fucking lunatics, more than likely crazy, and a danger to themselves and society. And, you know, I'm probably being hyperbolic there, but if that gets taken out of context and I get a bunch of K-pop hate, then whatever. Moving on, League of Legends tried to tap into this because League of Legends is fucking huge in Korea, and they ended up, like every business trying to make money, jumping on the trend, and this idea spawned KDA. Now, the people at Riot Games have plenty of experience with virtual bands to sell skin lines and characters, because they even have one as early as DJ Sona and Pentakill. Speaking of which, where's the next Pentakill album? I'm getting tired of this pop bullshit. But they have not had nearly as much success with those brands as they have the KDA brand. Now, what does all this have to do with Seraphine and virtual idols and all that shit that I said in the beginning? Well, a lot, actually, because Seraphine's main purpose, like I said before, was to join KDA and exist as another musical IP that Riot Games and subsequently Tencent could control and monetize. Now, what makes these so different from VTubers and virtual idols like Miku and stuff like that. Well, Miku doesn't exist on Twitter telling people how depressed she is or how she had a bad day and she's struggling to find the energy to get up in the morning, or how she can't really think of any good music, or if all of the success she's had is even worth it and if she even deserves it. Miku doesn't do that. Miku sing. Miku go ah, and that's the end of the story. Miku is a idol that is controlled by literally anyone. Miku's voice is available on the internet through Vocaloid's purchasable software. I can make Miku, look, I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna do it right now.
Kjackice is really cool and you should follow.
See? Miku herself said it. You should subscribe to my channel. But you see what I'm saying? Miku's not real. But people like to treat these characters as if they are real, as if they're totally not. Characters that have been perfected to generate as much money as possible. Characters that don't sleep, that don't eat, that don't really even have opinion, that don't have their own brain, that can constantly change and evolve, that don't have ages, that don't feel, that don't think. They are whatever you want them to be if it makes them money. And the best part about it is that as soon as you're done with them, they just cease to exist. But Seraphine tried to break that wall between reality and fiction by making really bad Twitter posts, trying to get people to have sympathy and empathy for her and all of this other stuff, when in reality it's probably a 40-year-old man and or group of 40-year-old men at a computer writing up their next fucking sad post. And because Seraphine was such a success despite all of the backlash that Riot Games got, because as long as they're making money, they don't give a fuck about backlash, they expanded their Seraphine project to the entirety of KDA, and now all the members of KDA are people, or at least we're supposed to think they're people. And this is creating a weird blur for what people think virtual content is, VTubers, and other things along those lines. And this video is supposed to serve as sort of a PSA, so if you didn't know about these things or these categories, I guess, or didn't know how to differentiate characters that exist on the internet, well, now you know. Things like Seraphine and Riot Games KDA, where they try to make these people as human as possible, are not the same thing as virtual idols. Hatsune Miku is not the same thing as Seraphine. Seraphine is not the same thing as a VTuber. VTubers are not the same thing as Hatsune Miku or Seraphine. These are all completely different things. Hatsune Miku will never post on an official account, "I'm sad guys, maybe I don't deserve to be where I am," or try to relate to thousands and thousands of people. She just exists to sing songs that millions of composers and lyricists write for her. There is no ulterior motive here. And Korone and Pakura and Gargura and all of these VTubers that people are starting to fall in love with do not exist to create an interpersonal bond because they're fucking machines built by programmers. They're human beings wearing virtual masks. That's it. If KDA were to start a, let's say, group gaming channel, none of it would be real because it's a massive micromanaged production being funded by a super rich fucking corporation. So for instance, if Akali, this one, were to get sick and couldn't show up for a session, they could just get a different mocap artist. They could just get a different voice actor. They could just switch it out completely. Now, on the other side of things, if a VTuber were to get sick, they would simply cancel the stream because the difference there is that they're not a robot. They're not AI. They're not a pre-recorded line of dialogue being animated to. They're a person doing everything live. Gargura, as much as, you know, it hurts to break the illusion, is some girl sitting in her apartment, most likely, looking into a webcam with an app that converts her facial data into an anime girl. So if that girl sitting in her apartment isn't there, Gargura isn't there. That's the point that I'm trying to make here. People are comparing this stuff as if they are comparable, but they're using very surface level comparisons. This is not the same as this, because when a VTuber gets sick, a VTuber feels depressed, a VTuber gets sad, a VTuber sucks at a video game, a VTuber has to eat, has to sing, do all of these different things, it's actually them. Unless you're Kazuna Ai, which in that case you are on this side of the fence because the corporation you worked for stole your identity and you had to work super hard to get it back just so you could join the new age of VTubing. Again, the Kazuna Ai situation is pretty fucked, but Kazuna Ai Ai is nowadays more over here. Kazuna Ai back then was more over there. So hopefully this video gave you a little insight on the stuff going on right now with this big uprise in virtual characters and all this shit. Like remember the time that the KFC Colonel became like a hot fucking virtual avatar and they were just posting stuff on Instagram? And remember that time when that virtual model popped up on Instagram and they were rendered wearing realistic clothes? None of that was bad because we know that these are fake characters. League of Legends is actively trying to create a parasocial relationship, a connection over the internet with its individual fans. And it's gotten to the point where people are unironically replying to any time Seraphine says something depressing. Like, don't worry, you've got this, and all this other shit, and it's so dystopian. This is more cyberpunk than most things people think are cyberpunk, and that's a fucking crazy thing to think about. But yeah, hopefully you got something out of this, some information you didn't have before. If you liked the video, hit like. If you disliked it, hit the dislike. That's what it's for. Give me your opinion on this video or on the topic itself. Do you think that this stuff's okay? What are some of your favorite VTubers you've ever watched them? Do you like that time that KFC did that thing with the virtual 3D rendered Colonel trying to sell us chicken in a really hot way? I didn't say hot, you said hot. Or did you dislike it? Again, leave a comment down below. Tell me how you feel. Give me some opinions. I read all my comments. I tried to. It's not that many. And finally, if you've somehow been binge watching my content, I would appreciate if you hit this subscribe button. It seems logical. You've watched a couple of videos. You should hit the subscribe. I'll upload more. But I don't exactly know when that'll happen, so hitting the bell notification is going to be your best friend in this situation. Bars. Thanks for watching, and remember to stay cool.